works together to fill those needs.
Now we move on to our next news. U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered the Justice Department to produce more documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Following growing pressure from supporters, Attorney General Pam Bondi says she'll move to unseal grand jury transcript. Meanwhile, Trump threatens to sue Wall Street Journal over report of a 2003 birthday letter to Epstein, which allegedly included a risky drawing and Trump's name as a signature. Trump denounced it as fake, calling it fake and defamatory. Elon Musk also weighed in on X, suggesting Epstein's death was a hoax. Tensions over the case continue to escalate. This comes as White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt said Trump will not recommend a special prosecutor for the Epstein case. She added that Trump has been transparent and believes the media is overhyping this issue. Let's now take a look at what Karoline Leavitt, the White House Press Secretary, had to say.
Well, the idea was floated from someone in the media to the president. The president would not recommend a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. That's how he feels. And as for his discussions with the Attorney General, I'm not sure. The president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people. But he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about.
Now we're joined by our guest for this discussion, Scott Faulkner. He's the head of Eagle Enterprises security firm, joining us live from Washington. Thank you, Scott, for joining us today. Good to see you.
Pleasure.
Is President Trump's call to unseal Epstein-related documents, is it a move towards transparency, do you think, or this is a political strategy of him to control the narrative?
I think it's a little bit of both. At some point, everything will come out, whether it's going to come out in the next year or 20 years from now in a history book. The key is that the Epstein scandal really is at the epicenter of how the deep state works in Washington, D.C. And so it's for those of us who have always had a healthy skepticism for the intelligence communities and their ultimate agendas for just acquiring power and holding on to it. Epstein is really at the epicenter of that. So a lot of us are eager to see it come out sooner rather than later, but at some point it may be later.
And Scott, should Trump's alleged 2003 connection to Jeffrey Epstein be viewed as relevant today to current investigation, or is it just a distraction?
It's a total distraction. I mean, people know that Trump, early on, he and Epstein were friends. He was in the Epstein plane. Epstein attended political and social events with Trump in New York and in Florida. And then when the first case came out against Epstein, dealing with child trafficking, he completely distanced himself from Epstein, basically ghosted him. Immediately after the conviction or the plea bargain. And so all these photos, all of these things talking about Trump with Epstein all predate that plea bargain. And from then on, Epstein was persona non grata with Trump and his entire business enterprise.
And Scott, now with figures like Elon Musk also fueling this conspiracy theories by reacting online, what responsibility do public figures like this have in shaping the discourse around this Epstein case, according to you?
Well, first and foremost, as I just mentioned, Trump has nothing to do with the current issue with dealing with Epstein. If there was anything, I mean, not just a smoking gun, but just any illusion that Trump had anything to do with Epstein past his plea bargain, it would have been plastered all over the place during the 2024 election, because the CIA, the Justice Department, the FBI under Biden, they all were doing everything they could to undermine Trump and his movement. So the fact that they didn't do anything with this means that he is completely clean on that. The key is now is, what really is going on. I mean, it's ironic that about every decade or so, we have a huge sex scandal in Washington or in Hollywood. In 1984, we had the Mayflower Madam that, and then in 94 we had the Hollywood Madam, and now we have Maxwell and Epstein. And in each case, their client list was never seen. In the case of both the Mayflower and Hollywood Madams, of course, these were adults dealing with adults. The perversion of the Epstein is these are children and young teens dealing with very perverted adults. So it has a much more dire component to it because you're dealing with not just human trafficking, but child trafficking. And it's ironic that Maxwell, in her plea bargain, sealed her files. And so once again, she's convicted or pled guilty to sex trafficking, human trafficking, child trafficking. But then who did she traffic to? I mean, that's the ironic part of it. And if all this was a hoax, why did she get convicted in the first place? Why did Epstein get jailed in the first place? So there's a lot of pieces that still don't add up. And so it's not just conspiracy, it just doesn't add up.
Thank you very much, Scott, for joining us today and sharing your insight as head of Eagle Enterprises. Now we move on to our next news.